Welcome back to Python with Andrew, and I want to continue exploring Chat-GPT. Incredible tool, incredible productivity boost for programmers. And over the last few days, we've had a great little extension to Visual Studio Code that allows us to use Chat-GPT right within Visual Studio Code. And for those that are already using Copilot on GitHub, it's similar to that in terms of embedding it right in the tool you're using. And if you listen to Microsoft, they often talk about that's their next step goal with all their products is to embed generative AI into their tools. So let's have a look at how we, first of all, bring it into Visual Studio Code, and then let's just explore a little bit. Like I said, it's quite new and a few little quirks, but overall quite good. I like it. I'm sure it's going to get better as time goes on. So let me just get myself organized there and change screens, because the first thing we need to do is jump into Visual Studio Code and add the extension. So I've already added the extension, but I'll show you where to go. If we go into extensions, you'll see Code GPT. It's already gaining a lot of popularity. If you add this extension, I've obviously added it already. It comes up quite quick. That's step one. Most of you are probably very familiar with adding extensions into Chat-GPT. There's one other thing you need to do is you need to connect this extension to your Chat-GPT account. And the way you do that is by going and getting a key. So if I jump over now to my account over in Chat-GPT, I've logged into my account. If you don't already have an account, you need to get one because you need to put your key and your connection to the Chat API. And you'll come to this if you click down on your account and you view API keys, you'll see your keys that you might already have set up, and you can generate a new secret key. I've already done that. When you generate a new secret key, copy that and then put it into the extension. When you load the extension, the first thing it asks is to give me your key. Okay, so a bit of fiddling around to get it in there, but once you've done that, all quite good. So let me get rid of that, clean up the screen a bit, and let's get started. There's a number of ways we can use it. I'm going to use the simplest way and say, hey, can I get Chat-GPT to help write some functions for me? So the easiest way to do that is wherever I want the function. If I right-click, you'll see we've got Code GPT as a prompt. And if I click on that, I can ask the question. So write a function to add two numbers, right? Something simple as that. And it actually goes to Chat-GPT and gets you the code. And you can see it does a number of things. For some reason, the formatting's or the commenting's a bit out of whack. But over this side is just really the feedback. You can see we've got a define function there. Very simple function, of course. So you'd hope it would get it right. But I can now copy it over here. And it's also got a good example of what's going to happen. So I wouldn't call this rigorous testing, but it gives us a bit of an example of what happens. So I can just copy and paste the definition and the use of the function. I can then run this and I'll get an answer down there, 8. All right, so in the terminal, okay. So nice and easy. I like it. Quite a good way of just testing some things out. Now, if I get rid of that, I'm not going to save that, and let me delete that. Let me try another one. So let me ask Chat-GPT, write a function that takes a date and returns the day of the week. Again, sort of simple function we want, quite useful in terms of what we're doing. Now, what's really interesting is that if I look at the code it produces, I've run this a couple of times and I've actually got different answers each time. And in this case, I'm not quite happy with this answer here because I don't even think it's correct, right? So if I actually copy that in, I don't think it'll work. So that's interesting because sometimes it worked and this time it actually didn't. It actually put a new line character in there. So that's interesting. So that was meant to be a, and I might want to do a, get rid of that. I think that was it. And day of the week, it doesn't even return it. So I need to return that object. So that's a bit interesting because the other two times I've run it, it gave me correct code. In fact, if I go across the code, it gave me, when I ran it previously, it gave me this code here, which, no surprise, is very similar, and it's correct, right? So sometimes it's correct, but sometimes a little bit different. So, that tells me already that you've got to be careful. It's great for generating snippets of code and a good win, but be careful. Don't assume it's correct every time. Still need to go through your rigorous testing. The other point I'd say, so let me close this down. It's not like we can try, but let's say if I ask something much more complex, like build a game, a text game with multiple rooms to escape from. Just get that. So let's just see what happens when I do this. Now, personally, I wouldn't recommend doing this because I don't think we need someone to write all our code because what I put in there was pretty ambiguous. So I'm expecting it to come up with all sorts of things. And I want to show this more as an example of don't take it to that degree. Use it to really do bite-size of code because you can see that there is a game, right? We've got room 1, room 2, etc. We've got some code there, and my guess is it probably works. There's a few errors that worry me there, but I think that's sort of, I put in an ambiguous and I got a fairly general answer. So I wouldn't recommend using it in that way. Not a strong use of it. Stick to writing short, sharp functions, look at the output, test it using its test case, and then double test it again with yours. That's how you'll increase your productivity. Also use it as a bit of advice in terms of how you can improve code. So here's an example now. I'm going to close it down, how else I can use it. So I'm going to go into, I've got a file that I created, a banking function previously. And so let me take it in there. And this banking application adds accounts, deletes accounts, etc. I can highlight a code there, and I find this really quite useful because I can, down the bottom here, explain the code. Right, so I can click on explain, and it will give me an explanation of this code, and the explanations are quite good. So it's really useful, I think, in terms of when you're getting code handed over, you can quickly use this as a bit of a chance to pick up some code. Of course, if the person giving it to you gave beautiful documentation, etc., not a problem. But I think we all know that's not always the case. I can also ask to document this code, and it'll give me something similar, right, which will take through and document this code. And it's pretty good in its output there. I can, if you like, find problems with the code. And let's see what it says. It tells me a few problems. It's not clear where the variable bank accounts. I've used that. It's obviously a global variable of some sort. And it's saying, hey, that's not particularly useful. Maybe we can define it properly, or maybe I can even pass it through. So again, it gives me some hints on how to improve. If I click on refactor, again, it's going to try and give me a better go at doing that particular piece of work, which is quite nice. So overall, it adds some really good, handy tools to either build code or explain code or problem solve code, document code, etc. And I think that's a really good boost to productivity. My cautions so far is get it to write small snippets of code and make sure you're giving it quite good explicit code or instructions in English to help you out. So that's, hint number one. Hint number two, test it. Right? I've seen problems with it coming back with some code that I'm not 100% sure on, and I totally recommend testing it. And thirdly, use it to help you get up to speed in new code, or when you're past code and you're not quite sure and understand what things are there. And lastly, use it to improve code or find problems with code that you might want to get better at doing. Not necessarily to build trickier code, but just to iron out some faults. Now, of course, we could be doing this outside over on another window in Chat-GPT, and we could do the whole thing over and over. But I really like the fact that I'm in my tool and I'm building some stuff and I'm just right-clicking somewhere and I've suddenly got the functionality of generative AI in there. And of course, as Chat-GPT gets better and better, I'm currently using number 4, but number 5 will be around soon, 6, 7, 8. It doesn't change. It just updates in my my window and hopefully just produces better code, better explanations, etc. So, in a short time from now, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, the results it produces are going to be better and better and better, and we can rely on it more to create better and better code. So give it a try. I really like it. I recommend it. It's not perfect, but certainly is going that way. Thanks again, and if you're enjoying Python with Andrew, do subscribe and do pass it on.